Thank you so much for inviting me to this webinar. I love talking about this topic because I feel, as Margaret, you said, this is sort of an underappreciated part of the carbon market. And I love, Stephen, hearing your story about how you got comfortable, right, with the use of offsets and really did your due diligence to find ones that you could stand behind. So that's fantastic. I'm going to show a next slide here. So at Calyx Global, we're a carbon credit ratings agency. We have looked at over 680 projects. Of those, around 200 of them are super pollutant projects. And as you can see here, a lot of our findings really align with the things that Stephen and Amishi have already talked about, which is in general, and it's not perfect. I think, Stephen, you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not a slam dunk, but in general, these at this time, at this moment in the market, these tend to perform better in terms of greenhouse gas integrity. So when you look at these graphs, these are ratings for greenhouse gas integrity. At Calyx Global, we do separate out our ratings for greenhouse gas integrity compared to sustainable development impact. And I do hope we can talk about the other sort of characteristics or benefits of different types of credits, because there are trade-offs that buyers need to make. But this particular image is just our greenhouse gas integrity ratings. And indeed, these types of projects do tend to perform better. So on the left-hand side, you have waste, and waste can include landfill gas projects, manure management, manure management can be both large commercial scale as well as household scale. These are in developing countries where households might use manure for clean cooking. On the industrial side, we look at everything from ODS destruction, ozone-depleting substances, destruction, HFCs, nitric acid, adipic acid, N2O, like destroying the N2O in those types of plants. So a real range of super pollutant projects. What's interesting is that you can see the real clear difference, right, between the projects on the left and everything else. So everything else is renewable energy, forestry, cook stoves, a range of different project types. I think Amishi and Stephen have already covered, like, why is it? Like, why is it that we see such differences in the distribution of the ratings? One of the things that they mentioned, I'll just mention quickly again, is that it's easier to measure. These are, as Jen said at the beginning, they're point source emissions. So if you think about emissions that occur from land use or forestry, these emissions occur over an entire landscape. And so when you're measuring things like biomass change across a highly variable, diverse landscape, that's much harder to do than a point source when you're measuring a container of a gas and you're putting it on a scale, or the throughput of methane through a pipe that's coming out of a landfill. So these things are just kind of, they have these natural characteristics that make them a little bit of an easier fit for carbon markets. As Amishi and Stephen also said, there's not a non-permanence issue. The other thing is that also they're often highly additional. So additionality is easier to prove because oftentimes it costs money to actually destroy or try to avoid these emissions from going to the atmosphere. They don't sort of make money. And so for these reasons, they do tend to be a little bit of an easier fit. I will say, however, that many of the project types on the right-hand side, while the quality today looks poor on average, what I see is that these are changing. There is a second generation of projects that are nature-based, community-based, household-based, and I think that these distributions are going to change over time. It's just at this point in the market, we do see a higher quality for the super pollutants.